Meet us in the stillness, Lord. Be the air we breathe. Meet us in the stillness, Lord. Free us to receive. Meet us in the stillness, Lord. Be the air we breathe. Meet us in the stillness, Lord. Free us to receive. Meet us in the stillness, Lord. Be the air we breathe. Meet us in the stillness, Lord. Free us to receive. Meet us in the stillness, Lord. Be the air we breathe. Meet us in the stillness, Lord. Free us to receive.
Hello and welcome to this time of reflection for the week of September 16th through to the 22nd. Once again, I just want to say to those of you who are tuning into this recording that this is really meant for those of you who are unable to gather with us for in-person worship, which we have started in earnest this past week. In particular, everyone who was able and felt comfortable gathered together. And we are working on getting a recorded version of our Sunday morning services up and posted for those of you who want to access the services in that way going forward, at least certainly for the next stretch of uncertain time as we continue through the pandemic. We have been making some attempts at that with the cameras that we have and the recording equipment that we have in place. And so there is some raw footage from the last 2 weeks' services. You will find that here on our YouTube channel. You'll also find a link to it in the e-news that you may have accessed this video through. So we will let you know when we are really fully ready to go with those recorded versions of our Sunday morning service. In the meantime, I want to acknowledge that I am here, that the church is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, the Squamish, the Musqueam, and the Tsleil-Waututh nations. We are grateful to them for this land, for the opportunity to be on this land, to worship, to serve, for many of us to play and live on this land. And we're grateful for the elders who have stewarded this land for so many years. And we make these acknowledgements every time we gather as part of our commitment to truth and reconciliation here in this land, with the hope that justice and compassion and healing might flow between those who are Indigenous and those who are not Indigenous here in this country that we call Canada. Once there was someone who said such wonderful things and did such amazing things that people followed him. They wanted to know who he was. And once when they asked him who he was, he said, "I am the light. I am the light of the world." And in our community of faith, we would say that this light is a light that calls each and every one of us beloved, It is the light that unites us even when we are apart, makes us one. It is the light that animates our living and guides us on our way, this way of goodness and compassion and justice in the world. So this week on Sunday morning, we are going to be gathered around a fairly significant portion of the story of the Exodus that is found in our Hebrew Bible. Story that will be familiar to many people. I call this one of the meta-narratives, or it's referred to as one of the meta-narratives in the Bible. Significant, sweeping story that talks about a time in the life of the Hebrew people when they were enslaved in Egypt. And God called forth a leader named Moses, who went to the Pharaoh and asked the Pharaoh who had enslaved the people to let my people go. And after a number of plagues, Pharaoh, who has said, no, I won't do it, Pharaoh has a change of heart, and Pharaoh says, yes, you can go. And so on Sunday, we will be gathered around that part in the story when the people have fled from Egypt and they are making their way towards the Promised Land. And they've come to the Red Sea, and they wonder how they're going to get across. And Pharaoh's army is pursuing them. Pharaoh's now had a change of heart. Pharaoh's now decided to come after them, and or at least maybe the army has decided to come after them, and he's told them to do so. And Moses lifts up his staff. God tells him to do this, and the waters part, and the Israelites cross through on dry land, and then the water comes back together, and Pharaoh's army is drowned by the waters that come back over them. And then when they get out onto the dry land, it's said that Moses sings a song of celebration. And then this is a piece of what we will be reading on Sunday, because then what happens is that Miriam, the prophet Miriam, also sings a song. So in the 20th verse of the 15th chapter of Exodus, we read, "Then the prophet Miriam, Aaron's sister, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women went out after her with tambourines and with dancing. And Miriam sang to them, 'Sing to the Lord, for the Lord has triumphed gloriously. Horse and rider have been thrown into the sea.'" Now, some scholars, some people who do biblical interpretation say, well, only human beings would sing a song of revenge, right? Those members of Pharaoh's army, they got what they deserved, so to speak. However, since there's actually no historical evidence that there was a people that were enslaved in Egypt who made this great trek and through the Red Sea, and then, as the story goes, wandered in the desert for 40 years and 40 nights. The invitation that I always want to extend in relationship to this story is that we might look at it in a metaphorical kind of way. And so like so many stories in the Bible, or deep truths and universal truths, in so many ways the story of the Exodus is going on in the world and in our lives in all kinds of different ways at any given time. So we might want to think about times in our lives when we have felt enslaved, when we have felt like we've been held captive by someone or something. So an obvious one for us in this particular moment in history would be that we've kind of felt enslaved to COVID-19 in a whole variety of different ways. And there, of course, have been periods of time during this journey when we've actually been like pretty much locked behind closed doors. And then times have come, like the time we're in now, when there has been a bit of a parting of the Red Sea, and we've been able to cross over into a freer kind of a time. We're not there yet, we're not finished, but there has been a freeing up that's happened certainly over the summer and to a certain degree now. Here we are where many of us are being able to gather again in person for worship, or we're being able to see people that we didn't see. I hear stories all the time. I haven't seen my sister for 2 years and I saw her this summer, or I didn't get to hold this baby that was born during COVID and I finally got to hold this baby. So we are, in a sense, we're being set free from COVID-19. Could also be a time in your life when you have risked to move forward, when you have dared to step out onto uncertain waters even, and suddenly the waters metaphorically have parted, right? And courage has come up in you, and you've been able to step out into a new way of being. A lot of people have done that during COVID. COVID has been a time when folks have thought about stepping into something new, and courage has come up in them. There's a beautiful way in which when we step out, when we take risk, God, the divine, is made manifest in our stepping out, giving us courage, helping us to move forward. So you might think of this story in this kind of way. You might think of a celebration of anything that brings great awe and gratitude and joy in your life. For me personally, I think about times that I've prayed and hoped for something that would happen in which there was, kind of no guarantees, something I couldn't make happen in and of my own volition. And then I feel this great awe. Oh, it actually happened. I've had some twins born in our extended family this last week, so that certainly has felt like one of those awe and gratitude moments. They've arrived safely, and how beautiful a miracle is that. Or if I think about sort of stepping out, I might think about the terrible fear that I've had about posting things on YouTube, and here I am, however many years, because it always feels like years, months into this pandemic, and posting things on YouTube, well, it's just something that I do now. This week, when we gather together as a community in the sanctuary of the church, we'll be gathered around the theme, United in Celebration. And we'll be reflecting on those things in our lives that we want to celebrate in community. Sometimes it seems to me that we were made as human beings for communal celebration. You see that kind of communal celebration, that spirit of community rise up. I often think we see it more often than not through sporting events, right? When sometimes people will pour out into the street to celebrate a sporting event. What immediately comes to my mind is when the gold medal hockey game that was won here in Vancouver during the 2010 Olympics, and we poured out into the streets in gratitude for that. Ritual acts of celebration, they are ritual acts of celebration. All that high-fiving and shouting and hollering that go on at those times in our lives. It's said that this act of celebration, when Miriam takes her tambourine and all the women go out and dance together after the waters have been parted of the Red Sea, and the people have come through safely to the other side. It's said that this is the first recording of a communal ritual of celebration in the scriptures. In fact, it's said that it's the first record of any communal ritual we have in the scriptures, in the Hebrew Bible, which of course is also a part of the Christian scriptures. So it seemed miraculous to the people that they were delivered to the other side of the water when the army had been coming down on them, and their natural inclination was want to stop and to celebrate together. And so the invitation that I want to extend to you this week is to think about something in your own life that has taken place in this last 18 months or so that feels kind of miraculous to you. Something that happened that has left you feeling awe, gratitude, and joy. The kind of experience that is always better when we get to share it with someone else. So what has that been for you? What is it that you would want to celebrate? What would you shout out to the gathered community if I were to say to you, what do you bring in celebration today? One of the interesting things about this story, this meta-narrative, the Exodus story, is that the celebration happens on the shores of the Red Sea, and then the journey continues. The journey is not over, goes on for 40 years from that point on. Please, may this not go on, this pandemic not go on for 40 more years. Metaphorically, it's just talking about a long time before the fullness of reaching the promised land comes. And we're kind of in that same place, right? It's important for us to stop and celebrate together those miraculous things, to remind ourselves that we're not alone, that we are both together on the journey, and that the divine, the presence, that mysterious presence of life and love accompanies us always. Thanks be to God. So watch very carefully. I'm going to change the light, and I see I didn't bring my light changer, so I'm just going to blow it out, and you'll watch the smoke rise. And as that happens, that smoke reminds us that that light that was once in this place, this one place, a light that was once in one place, is now in all people and in all places. May you carry that light within you this week. May that light bless you and keep you, and may you be a blessing to all you meet. May it be so. Amen.